Okay, I will call the Thursday, April 9th, Kodiak Island Borough Assembly Work Session to order at 6:30 p.m. We will begin with citizen comments. This is, you have one chance at a work session or at the beginning of the meeting for citizen comments. For those who wish to call in, the local number is 907-486-3231. Toll-free number is 1-855-492-9202. And please turn off your radio or any listening device to prevent feedback. And for those in the room who wish to speak under citizens' comments, please come to the podium, sign in, turn on the microphone, make sure the green light is on, speak directly into the mic, state your name for the record, and please address all of your remarks to the assembly as a body and not to any specific member thereof. So we have a call? All right, we will take a call.
We're now answering a call from the queue.
Good evening, Assembly Work Session. Please state your name for the record.
Jack Schockler.
Go ahead, please.
Good evening. My name is Jack Schockler. My wife and I own one of the local retail cannabis stores. I'm calling you this evening to oppose the idea of a marijuana tax. You may see the high sales numbers across the state and think that this will help fix the budget. I do not believe it will. We see at least 75% of our total money earned leave in the form of travel, cost of goods sold, payroll, insurance, etc. Of that 25% left, we still have to pay 25 to 40% in federal income tax. After this, there isn't a lot of meat on the bone. Then we're supposed to give up more to the borough. Kodiak is a small community with only 3 small stores. In fact, one store already sold out to another because they couldn't make it. Taxing us, for lack of a better term, is barking up the wrong financial tree. In some towns, like across Southeast Alaska, a marijuana tax might make sense. They have a giant tourism industry, bringing in lots of outside money every day, all spring, summer, fall long. Kodiak does not have that on that scale. I could count on one hand the amount of cruise ship passengers that come through our store each docking. It is already hard to own a business in Kodiak. With strict ordinances, excessive licensing fees associated with doing business, it's hard to do. Operating this type of business in Kodiak is also a logistical nightmare with all the traveling involved. We don't need to add another tax expense into that. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack, for calling in. Appreciate it. Anyone else in the room or online? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on into our manager's comments.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to go over some upcoming community events. Comfish Alaska is here the 16th through 18th of this month. Community Cleanup Day is being held on May 2nd, and Kodiak Crab Festival is scheduled for the 21st to the 25th of May this year. I was writing this during union negotiations and yet failed to write anything about union negotiations. So I'm going to add something in there. Wednesday and Thursday this week were full days of union negotiations with the IBEW rep over and our shop stewards. Joining me were our HR representative, Megan Christensen, and our assessor, Seema Group. So the 3 of us, and there are 3 shop stewards and the IBEW rep. I think it got off to a really good start, and everyone walked away healthy. The Citizens Academy had its 5th and final session on April 7th, which was Tuesday this week. Our Finance Director, Dora Cross, led the session with an overview of the Finance Department, led participants through a variety of topics, very simple, like how to read your tax statement. Does that mean I have to quit?
Your time's up.
Done. All right, moving on. From how to read your tax statements to, we had some really hard questions, like how does the assembly decide how to fund the school district? So, and Carrie Irons was in the room. So I was like, yeah, right. So we had to navigate through a lot of that. I'm really happy with the way the academy went. It was suggested that we perhaps do it twice a year. I think that instead of doing it twice a year, what I would like to see happen is we move ours to the fall, so we're not inside of budget season. And then if the city of Kodiak wants to do one, maybe they would want to take the spring session or back to back or whatever. But I think it's something that the people who came really did learn a lot, and we got throughout all of the sessions got like, oh, that's how that works, or I didn't know that, or honestly, listening to Dora's session on Tuesday, I learned stuff. And I talk to Dora all the time. So I think it's something that's very valuable. Hopefully that will continue. The Ship Escort Response Vessel System, which we call SERVS, was here this week. This program provides annual oil spill response training for fishing vessels. There were several educational opportunities put on by Prince William Sound Regional Citizens Advisory Council this week, and then I included a picture of what Women's Bay looked like yesterday. And if you probably saw it, if you drove out there, it's really neat to see all those boats out there all at once. Last week, I was at the Northwest Managers Conference in Sitka. The conference gathered managers from Oregon, Washington, and Alaska to learn best practices and look for possible synergies. I'm the current president of the Alaska Municipal Managers Association, so we got lots of practice introducing people and moderating sessions and doing all the stuff that you do when you're running a conference. Senator Sullivan and Representative Begich gave a video presentation, but Senator Murkowski was in Sitka, so got to attend. If you've been to a conference when a senator or representative is there, there's like this line that forms, and you have to be really like get out of my way to get in close to them. You just don't get access. So I was disappointed because she was in a hurry. She was off to talk to the Coast Guard, and I didn't get a chance to talk to her. But when we got on the plane that night, I sat next to her on the plane. So I had a seat right next to her to Juneau, and then from Juneau to Anchorage. So she knows all about the borough. I listed out some of the sessions that we went to. Some of them make a difference here, some of them not. But we had some really good conversations around meaningful municipal and tribal partnerships. Sitka has a really good model, even an MOA with their tribes on how they go for funding together as a unit. We talked about HR, tourism growth. Some of the southeast communities are really exploding beyond what their infrastructure can handle, and we had really good conversations on how locals pay for the infrastructure that tourists use and how to try to balance that out a little bit. We were successful in hiring our PC tech and IT. They start on April 20th. Next in there, you can see our upcoming budget dates. There was a change from the last time I put this chart in. We will not be having a meeting on April 23rd. We're going to add a special work session after the regular meeting next week to cover community development, parks and rec, LEPC, and E&F. Tonight, we're going to go through a lot of budgets, and you're going to be like, oh, we went through so many, and it went so fast. I just want to warn you in advance that E&F is not a short, fast one. Just so it's on your radar. And then the date so the public knows, we're going to start reading our first reading of the budget ordinance on May 21st. So that'll be the first time that that ordinance goes in front of the assembly. That's also the same night that we look at the local contribution resolution. And then in a special meeting, we will be looking at when that decision is due after the meeting on the 28th. I don't have them there, but I think we're adding a special meeting on the 28th. And then the public hearing for the budget ordinance will be on June 4th, ahead of the deadline where we have to have it in by June 10th. In finance, there's no update from last week, but if you find that you are on the foreclosure list and you would like to pay off, please call 486-9324 to get a payoff amount. In information technology, they have been working with the clerks to create a public-facing form for boards and commissions and committee applications so people can do that online. They've also been working on building a test virtualization platform for evaluations. I just told you about the new PC tech. We have that cybersecurity and risk mitigation program starting, which is great. And GIS has been working on creating maps for the clerks for public notifications regarding licensing for businesses. In assessing, I know that Mr. Smiley said I was never allowed to use the words REPL together in a sentence again, but assessing, and it's in the report, so I'm saying it, sorry. Assessing and community development are both doing their research on that license for the clerks. Nunyak has applied, so that work that we put in and where we had to say those 4 letters in a row so much has paid off. We did get that license back, and Nunyak has applied for it, so we'll be transferring it to a new business, which I think is great news. Good cause exemption hearings are scheduled for the Assembly for Disabled Veterans and Senior Citizens on May 21st. We told you about the escape properties and their extended deadlines. If you got a new updated Notice of value, your extended appeal date is to April 17th. The Board of Equalization will meet on May 4th. Right now, there are 29 requests for application to appeal. Some of those will drop off, so please don't be too nervous about having 29. I don't know how many that will be, but we expect some to drop off. For exemption appeals, nothing has changed for the Lutic Heritage Foundation. Tyler conversion, in finance, they are continuing to double put in legacy and the current system until June, just to make sure that we have all the information we need for all the documents as we go into the new fiscal year. In community development, there was a Planning and Zoning Commission held last night, the packet review for the April 15th meeting. They are working on the subdivision proposed by Kodiak Island Housing Authority to develop the 4 lots that used to be owned by the city of Kodiak, by the Kodiak Municipal Airport, into a 25-lot subdivision for housing. The public hearing for the case will be on April 15th. Once that preliminary plat is approved, the applicant will have 2 years to complete the improvements and submit the final plat for approval. In engineering facilities, the Solid Waste Contract Committee has asked for a revision to the draft for the solid waste contract. They're meeting on April 14th at 3 p.m. and they'll have that draft ready. The multi-facility elevator modernization has moved to the hospital. That work starts next week. One of the things that Cody and Patricia have been working on with Providence is a design ownership shift in which the designs will be coming, that process will be coming to the borough. So one of the things that we've had issues with were, this passed at 35% in 2022 and 65% in 24, but then it comes back in 26 for 65% again, and those numbers have been hard to follow the costs and the amounts. So we're taking all of the projects that are open now and moving design to the borough so that invoices can go directly to us and we have direct control over those phases. Cody has worked really hard with both Providence and their engineering teams in Big Prov up in Anchorage, and working with their architect firms to get that information to us so we can take over that. So we will be in charge of how that money is going out. And if there is a change, it will be a change order just like any other contract. I will demonstrate that later tonight on some pumps for you. At the pool, we're still waiting for go on the small-scale destructive testing. That contract has been signed, so it's just a matter of time before we get that scheduled. We don't have any changes in the fuel spill assistant. The KFRC is that pump that I just told you about that we'll see later tonight. We have several small projects going. The picnic table replacement will start work around mid-May. Project staff went to the Parks and Recs Committee back in January. They're working with Parks and Recs on Hollerton Port update. The school painting project, the ARB members have until the April meeting to respond to concerns, and our new ARB member that just got approved last week, Luke Smith, is already called in with his comments. We have the UST removal over at the Annex building. We're working on the boiler gun replacements, the Mill Bay Beach stairs, and the citric acid dosing skid replacement. Someday you'll have to go on a tour so I can show you what that is. Upcoming contracts at the end of the year, we have a lot of contracts that expire. Our facilities, road maintenance, and snow contract was just done for a year, so we'll be doing that for a longer period of time, so we don't have to do that every year. Our recycling contract actually ended in 26. The assembly agreed to 2 more extensions so we can align the recycling with the solid waste contract, so we'll be asking for that final year extension. The janitorial contract is expiring. The analytical lab contract for the leachate treatment plant sampling is expiring, and then we have service contract extension letters to go out to for auto maintenance, Taylor Fire, Premier Mechanical, and Nodak Electric. So we will extend those as we go into the next year. Upcoming meetings are listed there for Solid Waste Contract Committee, Health Facilities Advisory Board, and the SWAB met this week. They're tentatively scheduled for the 15th again. And that is all I have for today.
Great, thank you. Any questions regarding the manager's report? Mr. Smiley.
Regarding the change in how the hospital things will go, are we going to invoke the architectural review board on those?
Yes, they're still involved. Bringing it over follows more closely in line with what the lease language says.
Okay.
And so, and we are still continuing with those 35, 65, 95 phase gates.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, so this move will give the borough more control of how that R&R money is spent, and it will still be able to move at the same speed, maybe even faster, and the ARB will still be involved every step.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, got off easy today. First on our agenda, presentation of the Providence Community Health Needs Assessment by Dr. John Loomis. Welcome, Dr. Loomis. Nova. Just a staff report.
I really don't have anything to
Okay.
add. Mr. Loomis is here to present. The whole entire report is in your packet as a link, and that's clickable, and I'm also going to project the ones that he's going to focus on tonight.
Great.
Thank you.
All right, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Nick Loomis. Good to see you all again. I'll say maybe an introduction and a socialization to the Community Health Needs Assessment as a pretext to what will be a presentation on our response, which is called the Community Health Improvement Plan, which we're anticipating next month. So I just wanted to spend a few moments making sure that the Assembly members and also the community is aware that this document exists. I wanted to briefly explain how it was generated, what it focuses on as the identified health assessment needs, and what our plan is over the next month or so for formalizing a response to this that will be presented at a minimum to the Community Advisory Council. Happy to report to this body or wherever else is recommended as well. If anyone has been here for longer than me, which most of you have, you're familiar with this process, I think. This is a health assessment that's done for our community every 3 years, spearheaded by Providence, but I would say very importantly, designed with a lot of feedback from the Kodiak community. Page 47, if you're interested, is a call out of all the specific members of the advisory body that helped put this together with Providence. Many members of our community are on there, I think names that you'll recognize, including from the Assembly here today. So led by Providence, but very much guided and designed with local input. The governing body that approved this body of work is the Alaskan Region Board, which again, there's members of the Kodiak community that are on that governing body that approves this work. So I just want to highlight this is a lot of representation from our community that helps decide this, not just big Providence. The process went between May and August or so of 2025. I think it's always just important to call out the time frame and when we do these assessments, because a lot of stuff in healthcare and community needs and everything else is so variable seasonally, variable at different times of the year. The body of this work was done between May and August of 2025. For the modalities of how it was collected, I would say 3 big things that are a mix of qualitative data and quantitative data. This is all about the first 20-ish pages of this document, if you care to read through it later. Big takeaways, I would say, is some of it is internal metrics to the healthcare entities on the island. So that would be wait times to get a primary care appointment, typical diagnoses that are being admitted to the hospitals, just some internal health metrics there. Some is the quantitative data from public health agencies, the State Department of Health, our local Department of Health, and then lots of community surveys. So 3 different community surveys that went out in 2025 to help gather some more quantitative and qualitative information. And then last but not least, I guess a 4th would be specific comments from the assembled group that was part of the work committee that put this together. So that mix of qualitative and quantitative data together came up with the major items, of which there are 4. And I'll bring us to page 27 as the start of that. We were able to distill the really meaty stuff of this down to 3 pages into 4 basic buckets. Again, if you've been here for longer than me going through this process, these topics are going to look familiar. They're pretty similar on my review to at least the last 2 cycles of this health needs assessment from 3 years ago and 6 years ago. Slightly different order, but pretty similar themes. Just to say them out loud, I'll go through just these 4 major items that this improvement plan is going to focus on in response to this health need assessment. The number 1 priority need was basic needs and economic security. The survey data parse that out into a couple different subcategories. I'll just read the bullet point. The full description with the citation appendices are in the back of where the data came from, is available on the health needs assessment if anyone wants to look. But under basic needs and economic security, affordable housing, affordable childcare, food, poverty, power and water, economic opportunity. If we flip to page 28, the next major bucket, which was the number 2 highest need on this assessment, was mental health. Under that, we have a mental health workforce shortage, high thoughts of suicide or self-harm, an increased need for mental health services, and increased social isolation. The third major bucket was substance use and misuse. Under that, the specific categories that were identified were binge drinking, substance use treatment, emergency department use, and substance use disorder workforce shortage. And last but not least, on page 29 is the fourth bucket, which is access to health care. The subcategories that were teased out there are dental care, healthcare workforce shortage, and just general access to health care. So the appendices in the back have the specifics, a lot of the survey data that gets into much more specifics across different groups in the community, across different economic groups in the community. There's a lot of good data in the back of this. And I call that out for the assembly members, but also for the community. This is meant to be a community resource, not just a Providence resource. It's available for free on the Providence website. If you just Google Providence Kodiak Community Health Needs Assessment, it's there. There's a link, I believe, in the paperwork for the Borough Assembly members today. And we want this to be a community resource, not just a Providence resource. So next steps, what do we do with all of this? Right now, we are working on what's called the CHIP, or Community Health Improvement Plan. That is led by mostly myself, the Providence Work Group, and some community partners that we'd like to partner with to address these concerns. That goes through a governance process, gets approved by the Alaska Region Board, which again, there's some Kodiak members on. That document's expected to be ready by the end of April. When it gets finalized by our governing committee, it will also be freely available for the entire community to view. It's going to be posted on the same website as the health needs assessment. And my plan would be to give a little bit more of a presentation at that time, at a minimum to the Community Advisory Council. I would love to also come back to the assembly and whatever, either through HFAB or at this body, to give a more full presentation of what our response is going to be as a healthcare system to this with our health CHIP, our Community Health Improvement Plan. That's mostly what I wanted to say as an introduction to this. I hope you have time to read through some of the specifics, and I'll be excited to come back in 1 to 2 months to present our response. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Loomis. Yeah, I'll open it up to some questions. We'll try to keep it brief. I would like the assembly to keep in mind that this isn't about the facility. This isn't about the envelope. We know those are separate conversations that we're having with HFAB. This presentation specifically on what they found about community needs, and to also keep in mind that the scope of borough powers. We don't really have the power of health care, but we do have medical facility health facilities. But also think about what we do have control over, what our powers are, and how we can best use our resources and our ideas and creativity to see how some of these things kind of intersect. We know definitely housing and childcare as an economic development power that we are currently working through. So with that, I'll open it up to any comments or questions, or we can save them until the next time. Yes, Mr. Whiteside.
Just briefly, and I think the mayor may have partially answered this. Out of this document, I was going to ask through the mayor as far as actionable items in here that could come of this. What could the assembly lean in on? Clearly, housing and is something that's a priority on our radar. But is there anything else that we should focus on in this document to kind of prepare for where you're coming up next? That I don't know. I'm struggling how to word this.
Yeah, I think I have maybe an idea to answer that, and redirect me if I say it wrong. But I think what would be most helpful, for me at least, would be having a group that has more visibility on community resources and community partners that can help kind of set the table of how to bring the right people together to address some of these concerns. I'm thinking of childcare as an example, and I'm thinking of if we have an entity that has workforce but doesn't have space, and we have an entity that has space but no workforce, and they don't have visibility on each other, I don't have much of an idea of how to get the right people at the right table to start having those conversations outside of my individual reaching out to community members. And I think a body like this would be a wonderful tool to use to make sure that our community partners that have similar interests but maybe different skill sets or different availability know about each other and are coming together to form a plan together.
Okay, thank you. So I guess it's a little premature. When you come back, I might be able to form that into a
Yeah.
more productive question, but thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else? All right. Thank you so much. I read all 99 pages, but yes, we will definitely invite you back for when you have the improvement plan. That'll be fantastic to see. Yes, thank you again. Okay, next up is a budget discussion for some general fund departments. You can see we're going over several departments, and it's been requested we're going to go out of a little out of order. We have our information technology director here, so if it's okay with the assembly, we'll let him walk us through that first, and then return to our order.
So out of your 12 pages of budget stuff, Fred's budget starts on page 12. It is Fund 100-125. Are you ready for us to start?
Let's
Okay.
go.
All right.
So just wanted to kind of highlight a couple things. For overall, the budget's down from last year, about 60,000. Most of that is because we're focusing this year on this cybersecurity project, infrastructure project. And so a lot of the staff's and my bandwidth is going to be going towards working on that project for the borough. So I'm not budgeting for any sort of large capital or other sort of larger projects. And Dora reminded me to mention that I will probably expect to have to replace a few systems next year. So this is sort of an anomaly. So I think just wanted to also highlight that software expenses are going up. So that's part of why you're hearing that we're working on looking for replacements for existing enterprise software, things like VMware, and basically vendors all across the board have been increasing the prices, and so we're looking to try to keep an eye on costs there. Other than that, I think I'll open it up for you guys. I could go through them line by line, but there's quite a few items. There really is hardly any other change from last year other than what I mentioned. We still sort of have the same requirements for licensing for our office products and our server, and we try to keep a workstation refresh rate of industry standards. Roughly a quarter of the systems get updated every 4 years. So we want to try to keep a 4-year-old piece of equipment so they don't get outdated, and that's reflected in the budget. And I'll open it up for questions.
Yeah, sure. Any questions? Mr. Whiteside.
Thank you. I guess it's just curiosity. Do you feel you have adequate staffing to maintain all of these services and associated workload year to year?
I do. I'm glad you asked. We recently had turnover. One of our senior guy that was here before I was here, Mitchell, as you guys are aware, left. Kind of highlight some of the things that he was taking care of that we've had to sort of absorb, which made me, sort of reassess whether or not we wanted to bring in a PC Tech 1 or PC Tech 2, and the role that he fills. So over the last month, I've had a good chance to look at that. I do think that we're pretty well staffed. Ask me again as we get through this project. We'll be ripping out pretty much every single piece of networking equipment in the borough. So over the next, the project's supposed to end roughly in September, so we have time to do this, but, yeah, it's gonna be some work.
Okay, great. Appreciate that.
Any other questions for Fred? Okay. Thank you.
Right, thank you.
All right, Mr. Mayor, we can go back to the regularly scheduled order now.
Sounds good.
Okay, so the first one we'll talk about is 100-100, the legislative budget, and that's Nova.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor and Miss Manager. I have given you a spreadsheet. So the first one would be 100-100 legislative, and the third column was the budget for last year, FY '26, and then I made a column of the changes I've made this year, and then the fiscal year 2027 level 1. So this budget shows a reduction of 19,319 for the upcoming fiscal year. So it looks like there's, I'm just gonna highlight the bigger amounts. Retirement, we're reducing that to 0. And then office supplies, I'm going to be transferring the office supplies from legislative to the clerk's office, so I won't have to maintain 2 accounts. And then furniture and fixtures, I'm zeroing that out because I don't really use that amount. Most of the stuff here, if there's technical, if this breaks, I go to IT. If a chair breaks, then I go to engineering. So I really don't use that amount. And then the assembly travel per diem, I reduced that by $9,000, and I have given you a spreadsheet of where I'm allocating the funds. And then this is also pretty flexible. So, and then in the middle of the year, if you think that you want to go to the villages and we're running out of funds, we can always amend the budget. But as of now, historically, the past few years, the budget has not been used. So I'm reducing it. And then the mayor has been reduced by 6,000 also. If the mayor would like to speak on the travels that he's proposing, which is attached to this spreadsheet, I'll defer to Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, for sure. I knew coming into this seat that I wanted to cut the mayor travel budget anyway. So what I've included are our 3 AML conferences. And I can usually, almost always, I'll make 2 of them, but I don't think I've ever in a year been able to make all 3 of them anyway. Those, and then the Swampsea one that I missed this year, but still would like to keep that on. I am not. Well, there's a. Oh, there it is. I was looking at the wrong one there. We had. I've talked with the manager and some others about. Instead of taking a big, $2,000 or $3,000 trip or whatever to DC for lobbying efforts, kind of cut that tremendously and capture when our legislators are here in the state and go to those conferences and probably get more time with them here. It does mean that we'll be visiting other non-Alaska legislators and entities in DC, but I think we can kind of get what we need with the borough here. So when the Department of Defense, Department of War, what do you think? Is when they come to Anchorage for a conference, I'd like to go up there and talk with them and talk to other military serving communities too. AFN is also a great opportunity to capture some time, some face time. I did request, I am requesting about $1,000 or $1,100 for, I've mentioned this before, the Aerospace States Association conference that I've been encouraged to go to. And I would like to note that I am asking the borough to cover airfare, but for some of these conferences that will be providing my own lodging. And these are pretty expensive places. Juneau, I think the lodging, I mean, that was like, yeah, for 4 days. I mean, it was upwards of $1,500-$1,600, and the same would be, for the Albuquerque one. But I know people, and so I will, take advantage of that. So even with kind of a couple of added ones in there, they're much smaller in scope, much more closer to home. So leading to a reduction of around 6,000, and to leave some in there for potential village travel too, if for some reason we can't get a ride on the plane with school district or someone else, just to kind of leave that open. I would like to visit each village at least once, over the course of the year, and maybe even have some kind of mayoral get together or meeting or something with all of them. So be able to use a little bit of money for that. So different things, trimming it down, but that's my request.
I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Mr. Whiteside.
I would just say I appreciate the look at fiscal responsibility when it comes to government travel. I've been squeaking that wheel since I was in this seat, so I really appreciate that. That's a very thoughtful way to approach it while still looking to achieve our goals for lobbying efforts. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you. Okay.
Would you like me to continue on with the clerks, or would you like to do management?
Want to go in
Administrat-
order now.
administra-
That way our voices can rest a little bit. So that it's on page 2 is 100-105, that's borough management. There are a whole 2 employees there. This is me and Megan. There are some changes in contracted services going down. We do, every time we recategorize or reclassify a position, it costs us $500 through our company that we use, Gallagher. So we left some money in there. We did quite a bit in there that that's our actual amount. That's $500 a pop plus some extra stuff in there. You'll also see that dues, books, and subscriptions have gone down. I don't have an immediate need to be in my professional organization because they kicked me out, because you can't run for office and be in the managers association. So they flooshed me. Honorarium, amenities, and sponsorships, I also put that down $1,500 just because I'm not using it and don't have a history of really using that. So I didn't want to include that in the budget. Food, business, lunch, and meeting rooms, I also took $500 out of that. We do use that every once in a while, but not very often, and I think there was just extra money sitting there that we didn't need to. And then nothing else on that list has changed. If you're not familiar with it, what it looks like when an employee's salary is allocated to different funds, those last 3 line items, you'll see a portion of my salary is located to the Solid Waste Enterprise Fund, the Hospital Enterprise Fund, and the KFRC Enterprise Fund.
Any questions about the management budget? Okay. Seeing none, let's move on.
Okay, so the next handout that I've given you is for the clerk's office, and it's the same. The third column was the funding for last year, and it notes the change that I'm making this year, and then the fiscal year 2027 level 1 budget. This budget that's presented before you is also shows a reduction of $15,115 for fiscal year 2027. The top area there, I do not have control over because it's salaries, insurance has gone up, retirement, 6,357. And then contracted services, I'm zeroing that out. If I need to do any training for boards and committees, I can charge that to the boards and committees line item. And if I'm going to do training for records, I'm going to get that from records budget line item. So printing and binding, it's reduced by $2,000. Yay. And then another reduction is $8,000, which is a huge chunk for continuing education for the clerk's office staff. I am really proud of my staff because they are now certified, and we still have budget remaining that we can continue getting points, especially for Irene, who's striving to get her MMC as well. So she's going to be close in a few years, and she's going to get that also with the budget that we have right now, even with the reduction of $8,000. So we're doing good there. Our rent was reduced also by $1,617. I moved some safe cabinets, fire safe cabinets, from across the hall to our records room. Okay, and then election, I reduced it by $5,000 as well, and records management, it's been reduced by $2,000. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions for Nova? Mr. Woods?
And forgive my ignorance, please. For your clerks, do you guys require any kind of continuing ed to maintain certifications, or not so much?
No, not really, but things evolve so much or change so much in the clerk's world that I think it's important for us to continue our education. And I think the Alaska Association of Municipal Clerks especially, we do serve on some of the boards and committees, and that networking is truly valuable for the clerk's office, and I think it's important for us to continue attending those sessions. Yeah.
Absolutely, thank you. I don't have an understanding of your world, and thank you for helping
Yes.
broaden it.
Once you have your certification, they can't take it away from you technically. If you're certified, you're certified. If you're a master municipal clerk, they can't downgrade you to a certified municipal clerk if you don't attend any more classes. But I just think it's important for us to keep going. Yeah.
There's a Citizens Academy session for that, I'm just saying.
Yeah. So, any other questions that you may have?
Okay, seeing none, yeah, attorney's up next.
All right, next is 115. It's on page 5 of your packet tonight. For the borough attorney, you'll see that those, for fiscal year 26, that has gone up by $35,000. That is an increase for first-year learning curve costs, which we are definitely seeing. Nova and I were just talking before the meeting. If you send the attorneys an email and they read it, you get a charge back for reading that email. So they are a every 6-minute type of organization. And so I don't like it. And if they let someone else read that email, then you get it times 2. And if they talk to someone else in that firm, and we're not used to that because we had a singular attorney, and so we are experiencing some growing pains while we get used to the new firm. Advertising and hearings, that's publication of the foreclosure notices and newspaper inserts. Costs at the newspaper have been going up. We're adding $2,000 to that. Filing and recording fees, no change in that. That's our foreclosure pleadings, small claim court applications, and redemption certificates. Title search fees, that's what we do for reports for foreclosure process. And collection expenses, that's usually drafting of the confession of judgments for personal property collection actions. We haven't used that full $1,000 since 2024, so we're crossing our fingers and hoping that $600 will cover that for next year. And that is the Borough Attorney Fund.
Any questions? Okay,
All right, on page 6 is.
Oh, wait, Mr.
sorry.
Smiley.
How long is our contract with this attorney?
Too long? 3 years.
Thank you.
Right? Yes.
2028.
Next is 10120, which is finance, and Dora is here to walk us through that.
Evening. So on page 6 of the 12 pages in your packet, this is where mine starts. My department really doesn't have any big costs except for payroll. And so the change from 2025 actuals to the 2027 budget is mostly just payroll costs. I decreased dues, books, and subscriptions for a little. I'm anticipating having to purchase another desk, and I want to get a stand-up desk. It's so variable. It works for anyone. You don't have to be a specific height in order to use it. You can adjust it to where it works best with the chair. So I'm expecting to purchase one of those. Insurance and bonding, I expect to be fairly consistent. Recruitment and relocation, I am expecting to have to do some of that. And that's it. Again, my big swing from 25 to 27 is payroll costs. Normal step increases, and then when I have somebody out, like I'll have somebody out now, I end up paying additional pay increases to the people taking on those duties, because I can't just hire somebody in to do them. So.
Questions? Mr. Whiteside.
Similar question. Do you feel you have adequate staffing levels to maintain borough functions in your department while maintaining reasonable workloads?
I do not.
Care to elaborate?
Explain.
I don't. I advertised. We lost a general accountant with some good theoretical knowledge of accounting. And after 6 or 8 months of advertising and not getting any applications, I ended up downgrading the position to a fiscal analyst, which they're great, but they don't have the breadth of experience to make the kind of decisions that need to be made. Case in point, an equipment purchase for a governmental fund just is an expense, but an equipment purchase for an enterprise fund is an asset that needs to be depreciated. So that payment request comes through. Fiscal analyst doesn't always look at that and say, hey, that's an enterprise fund. It needs to be in a totally different account. It needs to be on the balance sheet. They don't have that experience. So I'm having to do that, or I'm having to hire in additional auditing accountant work. I just don't get the applicants with the experience needed. I have one staff member who's out for the next 6 months. Our finance department works with banks. I can't just hire anyone off the street to come in and, get into our banks. Not that they're not trustworthy. It's just I don't trust that easily. So I don't have anyone to replace them. I mean, I can hire a temp in to offload some of the jobs to try and help accommodate the workload, but our industry as a whole, accounting industry as a whole, CPAs like myself, are not, we're dying as an industry for that, and we're geographically challenged. I can't just advertise in the next town over for somebody to come and fill what I would consider a certified or credentialed position.
May I follow up? So temporary help, is that factored into your budget to the extent we can help approve funding to shore you up in whatever form that looks like? Is that accounted for here, I hope?
Kind of, because the employee who will be out won't be receiving pay during that time. I have that pay to pay a temporary position, and then if employees in my department take on other duties, they're mandated a step increase during that time. So I'm hoping that between the temporary position we can hire in, even if it's just to do the reception desk, that the pay increase in the temp pay will equal what I would have paid her, so I just budgeted for her straight pay.
Okay, thank you. I encourage you, and as you think about the next stages of the budget discussion, if you need additional support, to please consider it.
Mr. Woods?
Again, not familiar with the accounting world at all. Is there an education or training pathway to maybe take you from a fiscal analyst to an accountant position? Is there something that you can do in that realm?
So I am a huge proponent of education. I myself have to take 40 hours a year to keep my license. I encourage my department to take continuing education classes, but it's difficult when they're struggling with workload to have to stop and take a class. I'm fortunate my industry has tons of online classes to take. I don't have to travel. I don't have to have any of that kind of expense, but I do have a couple different education subscriptions, and some of the classes that I take, I pull all my staff in and say, we're going to do, instead of a staff meeting this week, you're going to sit and listen to this webinar. So is there a specific path? Not unless you're going to take a CPA exam. But for payroll, I encourage payroll classes. For AP, there's procurement and risk management classes. And so there's several different organizations that provide some good education that way.
And do they have credentials attached to them after you finish the course?
Sometimes you can get certificates in procurement. University of Georgia is really good. The state of Georgia requires all municipal employees to take classes from them in their chosen field. So they have some really robust municipal type government classes. Those are kind of hard to find. It's kind of a niche industry, but they particularly have some good courses, and you can get some certificates.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So is continuing ed beyond just that $3,000 a year, if we're going to put a heavier emphasis on that, is that contemplated in this budget or not so much?
Not so much. The online classes are really good and really reasonably priced. My bigger problem is at the moment I have staff who say, I don't have time. I can either take this or I can finish AP. Or I can process payroll, but I can't do both. So I'm on the edge of not having enough staff. I don't have enough to be, I think there's, now I'm going to wax philosophical. I think there's a certain amount of time that an employee has to have during the day to be creative, right? To look at processes and say, yes, this doesn't work. No, this doesn't work. Why doesn't this work? Why am I uncomfortable with that? My staff doesn't have that time right now.
Mr. Whiteside?
Thank you. I'll just say it one more time. So perhaps revisit line 110 and see if maybe more temp help would assist with that.
I do have an opening, so if anyone's listening and wants to put in an application, it's available online.
And do you require your staff to be on island?
My department's not set up for remote.
Okay.
A lot of our jobs are interfacing with internal staff, explaining coding. Another big problem is new staff throughout the rest of the borough, because then you have to train them on the chart of accounts. You have to train them on the fact this is an enterprise fund, so it's coded a little differently, or you have to charge your time here. So we're looking at payroll saying, oh, I know you worked over at KFRC, so you have to put that down as a project so that your time goes. So
yeah. Well, I think what I'm hearing is, I think for the next iteration, I think there's some willing or some openness for you to, include maybe something more to help you get what you need.
thank you. And since I do the budget amendments, I'll be happy to throw that in there if I need it.
Thank you.
Next tonight, we'll be bringing down our assessor for Fund 100-130, which is the assessing department.
Well, hello. Long time no see. There has not been a whole lot changed in the assessing budget either. I think we took out a lot of travel because we did our remote travels in 2026's collection time. So for us was 2025. So we got all of that data for this year, taxes, while we were traveling remote, and we are in the city this year. So we did get to take out some travel costs. I did leave my litigation expense rather high. Part of that is because of possible litigation that could come up, but my problems with our new attorney services that most of the time they can't take the cases that we are bringing to them because of conflict of interest. So I am afraid that I'm going to be going out and hiring another attorney. Right now, I still use Scott Brent Erickson for the open cases that we have, but when he's done with those open cases, he's not going to want to stay with us. So my fear is that I'm going to have somebody else because of that conflict. So.
It's not that he doesn't want to stay with us. He doesn't want to stay with anyone.
Anyone.
He's trying to retire.
Yeah. For the second time. I don't know if there, I mean, do you guys have any questions?
Any questions?
Pretty
Mr.
much
Woods?
the same.
As a rough estimate, I know you're not going to have this number, what percentage of our potential litigation cases are being conflicted out?
100.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you.
Every single case I have going right now is conflicted out.
Mr. Smiley?
Does that become grounds for canceling the contract?
I will review that contract and let you know, sir.
I mean, it seems like we're having trouble here, and it seems like there was another candidate at the same time we chose this one.
I also saw in Sika, they had an in-house attorney, and they just paid their salary. And so, for $175,000 a year, you had in-house counsel all of the time available. That'd be interesting to talk to the city and see how they do it and see if that might be something that we could share.
Yeah, it seems like we're in a big pickle here.
Pickle.
Mr. Whiteside, you have your your question?
I think you know it's coming. I'll just, I'll shorten it. Staffing levels and workload management. How are we looking going into the next fiscal year?
If I can keep everybody that I have, I'll be fine. But if I can't afford to cut anybody, we are at the brink. Plus, we have the software conversion. So I wait work until 8 or 9 o'clock every night too, just to try and make sure that we have all of the stuff for Tyler done or all of the stuff. We're in appeal period right now. I can't even have meetings with Tyler. I'm telling them they have to wait until May 26th to have another meeting with me because my staff, we have appeals on the board. We have the second set of appeals. We have it's just a busy time for us. So, and my staff needs to go out in the field now. So I couldn't afford to lose anybody. If you wanted to say you can have another person, I'd be jumping up and down with joy.
Yeah, I think if I'm not jumping on Mr. Whiteside, I think the spirit of the question is not who can you let go, but what kind of additional staff support do you need that?
I would take another.
Okay.
Another appraiser tech that we promote from within. We we are required to have certifications in order to do some of the things that we do. So we start at an entry level. We will be promoting, we should be promoting, I just had a staff member that put in for her certification, so she should be able to go to the next level. It is time also in our department, so some of our classes are on site. We can't just do them remote, so we do have to have travel for classes too.
So are we, really quick, so just to keep with Mr. Whiteside's question, so are we comfortable asking SEMA to go ahead and request a new appraiser tech position, go ahead and get it in the draft, and then we can have the discussion of how things balance out later?
Yay.
Okay. Mr. Woods?
And again, another industry I'm not familiar with, shockingly. Is a potential for like a temporary hire at some point during your busy season something that would be actually useful to you guys, or is just their scope of what they could do so limited that it would make it not really beneficial?
So by the time we got them trained to go out by themselves, so yeah, we have had temporaries. I mean, sometimes that is a way around for us when we don't have a full staff. But they always have to go out with somebody else. So it's putting two people together and maybe being able to do all the pictures. But it's really hard because most of the time that temporary person doesn't know where staff has been. So are they putting the picture into the right file? You know, there's just so many causes for error and stuff like that. So we had one temporary guy that we could hire back. We hired him back 3 years in a row. It was wonderful. He only wanted to work for 6 months. He is now retired and won't come back. But, you know, if I had that kind of scenario, I'd be slam dunk for having a temporary every summer if it was the same person that would come back every year and work those 5-6 months for us.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you,
you.
Seema. What's next?
Next, we're moving to Fund 100-165, General Administration. Are you going over this? Are you doing this one? Okay. Dora's here for support in case I need it. Let's see, you're going to see some numbers that might not make sense, so I want to let professional services in this category with $147,000. That is the cost of our auditors. The next line down, the out-of-pocket expenses, that is also auditors, and that's what Dora just talked about when we have people come in and help us untangle things of the past or do that upper-level accounting that we don't have on staff. Contracted services is contracted accounting assistance. Office supplies, that is the copy paper for general use. This fund buys a lot of copy paper from Amazon. We put it in the break room. Everyone just goes there and gets it and uses it. Everyone sees it come in up here and then they run away because no one wants to carry it down the stairs. And Dora will do it, and it's scary. So we try to help when we see it. Printing and binding, that $12,200 level, that's $5,500 that goes towards tax statements, $5,500 goes towards valuation notices, and we have $1,200 for the front desk printer. When people come in and pay a bill, we always print out a receipt for them, and that's just the cost of that printer. You'll see a $1,000 reduction in food business lunch meeting rooms that just wasn't being used, so that got moved down to $500. And there is a little bit of change in property insurance. You'll see that has gone up. We did not budget any for 26. You'll see that there's an actual amount of $1,700, so there's $1,800 in the next year's budget. Rent, there is an increase of $1,616. When Nova said, I don't need that space anymore, the floor plan still stays the same, and so the rent has to go somewhere. So you'll see that that's where it landed. And then there's just been some reductions in areas where we haven't been spending what we thought we would. And you'll see a very nice reduction in auto liability insurance. That has gone down since we started our new contract with our new insurance carriers. I don't get to say that often, so let's put a star on that one. Are there any questions about general administration?
Any questions? Okay, seeing none.
Our last one tonight is 100-190, Education, Culture, and Recreation, but probably not the culture and recreation that you're expecting. The only two things in this are the North Star PTA streetlights. There is no longer a North Star PTA, so there is no money going into that for this year's budget or next year's. And the other thing to the Carluck IRA Council, that's our pass-through from the state of Alaska for our community assistance program. That is money in, money out, easy peasy, as long as they fill out those forms. And we just did that a couple weeks ago, so that probably sounds familiar. And that's the only thing that's in that fund. Are there any questions about that? Are you sure you didn't want to ask the manager's department if we were staffed enough? Because I noticed a distinct
Go for it,
lack
Bo, I
of
see.
questioning
That will come
around
when we
that.
talk about E and F,
Okay.
how you feel about that one.
Mr. Gardner?
I'm largely ignorant on a lot of this stuff, and I am learning on the job, which is probably why you're wondering why I'm so quiet tonight. But from what I can tell, I do see a lot of gentle reductions in a lot of different places, and that makes me very happy. I think the public wants us, to reduce as much spending as possible. So while I am learning about this, I'll be asking some stupid questions and trying to find some places for us to do better. But as a person who's still somewhat new to this, these gentle reductions I'm seeing are at least a step in the right direction, and it makes me very, very happy. And I wanted to thank all you ladies tonight. You have done a lot of work that would have made my brain melt, and I appreciate it. That's all.
Thanks. Mr. Whiteside?
May I just make a general statement about the process?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I guess to frame the reason I'm asking the questions I've asked everybody is, I think it's important for the public to understand, I agree with Mr. Gardner, we've seen all of these smaller reductions add up to many thousands of dollars. But when I ask about staffing levels, staff salaries do cost taxpayer funds. However, we need to make sure that our staff have reasonable workloads and they have capacity, similar to how the clerk's office is handling the scenario where you have enough capacity where you can grow people within your department to then have adequate succession planning. And people aren't working till 8, 9 o'clock at night every single week of the year and they're burning out. How much value are we getting from staff when they're constantly under strain and pressure? So I think it's important for us to support our staff, which requires adequate funding so they can have the positions they need to perform their functions and still think about succession planning and professional growth. So that's my reason for asking those questions, and I will be asking them a few more times.
And it does save money in the long run. It sets us up for better, to be more effective and more efficient later on. So I agree. Okay, let's move on to some land. Next item is to discuss the property disposals. We talked about this the last work session and asked the staff to put some things together. So these are the Island Lake property and property between Beaver Lake Drive and Salif Lane, along with the Beaver Lake Drive 2. Amy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our Community Development Director, Chris French, is here tonight. You'll see a draft resolution in your packet tonight about these properties, and we'll have, Chris, you want to walk us through that?
Yes, thank you. So based on the discussion we had at the last work session, staff did put together this resolution that you see, F2026-NN, primarily for the Island Lake properties, property to be disposed of, as well as for the disposal method, which was, I think we talked about last time as a sealed bid, was the discussion. So what you have before you is the whereas statements for that resolution, and then we get into the section numbers where we start talking about terms of sale and things like that, and conditions. In section 1, we talk about a sealed bid auction once the following steps have been completed. So we wanted to point out there that there were further steps that needed to be done prior to doing the sealed bid auction, which would include the subdivision of the property, as well as the rezoning of the property from the public use lands district to the R2 two-family district. So those two things would need to be done before the sale can be completed. As part of number one there regarding the platting, they would need to have the drainage ditches completed, so there would need to be work on that prior to recording of the final plat. In section 2 is where we get into discussions about requirements and/or restrictions, and this is where we talk about time frame and location of seal bids. The one thing I found in here in reading Title 18 is that when you do the disposal, actually the assembly for both seal bids and also for outcry auction, in that resolution, it talks about having the actual time frame in it. So I know it's going to be very difficult to do with the Island Lake property because you have to go through a rezone and a subdivision process, and you have to make sure that you have a surveyor under contract, that they have sufficient time to do the plat, and that you have to have a contractor do the work on the drainage areas first before they can be recorded. So it's almost impossible for the assembly to set a time frame. So my suggestion on this was to have really a placeholder in the resolution to be able to go back and revise that resolution once the work is completed and the rezone is done, and so we can go back in to bring it back to the assembly to revise that section of the resolution to put a time frame in once we know this, the property's been platted and the lots are recorded and they're ready to go for sale, and we can actually establish the time frame for the seal bid auction. So that was one thing I wanted to point out to the assembly, is that we really wouldn't be able to set that date, so we would have to come back and revisit this resolution once that work is completed in section 1. Also in section 2, we talk about the 4 parcels need to be appraised at fair market value as determined by the borough assessor, and the minimum acceptable bid at the auction shall be the appraised market value. This is as outlined in Title 18. We did provide provisions regarding single entity, so that was something that was discussed in our work session, so we added that in there. The certified deposit of 10%, that is something that's actually discussed in the code in Title 18, but is also consistent with other disposal methods from other jurisdictions within the state. Qualified bidder section is in 1820-70. The notice of sealed bid is also outlined in 1820-140. We talked about here in here the award of bid, which needs to be provided in the resolution. Failure to complete payment, we talk about what happens if your failure to complete payment of any bid that's been awarded, and also talking about the what happens if someone wins, gets awarded it, but they don't provide the payment, then it could go to the next highest bidder, or it could be we bring it back up to another sealed bid auction. It'd be up to the determination of the assembly in that case. And then in section 2. What's that?
Oh,
It says 2, but
3, yeah.
Oh, should be 3. All right. So section 3, sorry. And it's also any conveyance of these properties made pursuant to applicable provisions of Alaska statutes. We wanted to point out that it meets those as well as Missile and Borough Code. We talk about the purchaser shall commence construction of residential dwelling on the property within 24 months after execution of the purchase contract or completion of the quitclaim deed, substantially complete construction and obtain a certificate of occupancy within 36 months thereafter. In other words, they'll have 2 years to basically initiate the process for construction, and then they'll have 36 months after that time frame to have the home obtain a certificate of occupancy. So that gives us the 5 years. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't sure if that's good with the assembly. We can go through that, and you can let me know if you think we should revise that. But that was something that I saw in a couple other resolutions from some other locations in the state, and that it sounded like it may fit with what the assembly was discussing at the last work section. All construction shall comply with applicable state, borough, and local permitting requirements. Of course, they have to get those building permits and things like that, zoning compliance permits as well. Then for number 3, in section 3, primary residency covenant, this is language regarding that it needs to be the primary residence of the purchaser. And we provide, again, completion of the dwelling. The purchaser shall occupy the property as their primary residence for a continuous period of not less than 5 years. We define what primary residence means. Again, this is consistent with what I've seen in a few other locations within the state in terms of how they've sold properties that had a primary residence requirement. The primary residence requirement shall constitute a covenant running with the land, building upon the purchaser and all successors and the sons. During the residency period, the purchaser shall not, without prior approval of the Kodiak Island Borough, sell, convey, lease, or assign any interest in the property, permit use of the property as a secondary residence, seasonal cabin, or short-term rental, or change the primary residential use of the property. I know in our discussions, we talked about not allowing them to be used as short-term rentals or other types of short-term rental properties. The purchaser shall, upon reasonable request, provide documentation demonstrating compliance, which may include these provisions in here in terms of the PFD, voter registration, et cetera. Failure to comply with this section constitutes a material breach. Upon breach, the Kodiak Island Borough may declare a forfeiture and revest the title to the property, exercise the right of reentry or repurchase at the original sale price, record or foreclose a lien. Gives us a bunch of options in here. Again, I think, we would need to certainly have the attorneys look at this and make sure that they're good with that language. Number 6, Kodiak Island Borough may grant temporary waivers or modifications for demonstrated hardships. Again, this is something, provision I saw in a few other communities across the state that had that residency requirement. This requirement is in addition to and not in lieu of any applicable borough or municipal land use regulations, zoning ordinances, or subdivision requirements. So if there's say there's zoning restrictions on where short-term rentals can be in certain zoning districts, what we provide here doesn't, trump those provisions that are in other codes. Any remaining unsold properties not disposed of in this sealed bid auction shall be withdrawn pending future evaluation and action, and all parcels will be conveyed by quitclaim deed. And that is consistent with what the borough has done in the past with borough sales of property. And I think that's what I had. You should have gotten an email forwarded, because I noticed one thing and it wasn't in here, and I sent it to Amy and she said get it to the clerk's office. So there's an email that we sent out regarding the let me make sure what that was. Regarding the abatement of sale of property taxes. So I did provide a statement in an email you should have, but basically it stated property tax abatement. Seller represents and warrants that it has the authority to grant a property tax exemption for the property and agrees that the property shall be exempt from property taxation for a period of 5 years from the date of closing. Seller should take all actions necessary to effectuate such exemption prior to or promptly following closing.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Gardner.
Yeah, this is something I've been thinking about for a long time. I think you nailed it on the proverbial head. I know SEMA doesn't like that lack of property taxes, but it's land that wouldn't otherwise get any property tax if it wasn't developed. So I love everything about this. It's awesome. It is worth noting the assembly, everybody on the assembly got several emails today from people that were concerned about the sale of these plats because, as they all claimed to my memory, the lack of road safety in the area, especially for children trying to get to school and whatnot. I experienced that a whole lot in my area, which is right adjacent to the Beaver Lake plats that hopefully will come up in the near future. Those people are not wrong, but Mr. Smiley also brought something up to me earlier as well, and I just wanted them to hear that if they're listening, that we don't have road powers as the borough. And one of the reasons that myself and other people on the assembly ran for this past election cycle was to help open up land, which everybody was clamoring for and has been clamoring for. So, it's only 4 plats. I don't think that's going to make a huge difference in the amount of foot traffic. Those people aren't wrong, but they need to reach out to their service district and some other avenues for us to try to make those roads safer for people to walk. But all in all, Mr. French, this is just awesome. I love it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Whiteside and then Ms. Roberts.
Thank you. I just have a few questions. I agree. Fantastic job. A few questions. So the sealed bid process, is there is there a time, what kind of timeframes could we apply to that? The reason that, let me, I guess, frame this better. So we have a lot of folks in our community that are commercial harvesters. They're gone for a large amount of time. People are traveling on and off the island constantly. That's why I veered away from the outcry auction option. I want to make sure people have availability to the process. Can we is there options for duration of that?
Yeah, the code doesn't really give you, like, it doesn't say you can't be more than 6-month time frame. It doesn't provide guidance on there. It just requires that before it's put up for sale, that the resolution for disposal would include that time frame. As we stated here, with the amount of work that is needed, both subdivision and rezoning, those timeframes would make it hard for the assembly to set a time frame at this time. But certainly, the idea to think about that is important in terms of what time of year will it be ready, and how does that impact timing for the residents of the borough to be able to submit a bid on the property.
May I follow up related to that? Is proxy bidding an option for folks that maybe are out at sea or off island for seal bid?
I didn't see anything in 18 that says you can't do that. I mean, I think you may want to, when we come back with this resolution, so if the assembly approves this disposal resolution we know we're going to come back for setting the time frame, I think you would have to set those provisions in there in your resolution for disposal about how the time frame for the seal bid, but how you would also allow for seal bids to be submitted. Do they have to submit them in person? Can they submit them electronically? How would they do that? A lot of that bid is they have to have a deposit down when they submit the bid, so you have to be able to do that. And so that might make it difficult to submit an electronic bid, for example.
Okay, thank you. I have a couple more, but I'll get out of the way for folks to weigh in.
Ms. Roberts, and then Mr. Smiley.
Thank you. I really like how it's laid out also. I like that we've included the primary residence requirement and the 1 lot per person limit. I think it makes the intent really clear that we want this housing for people who want to live here, not just as an investment. I think it is also worth noting, like Mr. Gardner said, we've received several public comments via email regarding the safety in the area, and I know that doesn't fall on us, but I'm just saying it for whoever it does fall on. People are concerned about the safety.
Thank you. Mr. Smiley.
There are two things that kind of worry me in this. In the past, we've done some things where unintended consequences popped up. One of them, we reduced building permit costs for people if they were owner builders. And it turned out that the 2 houses that were built under that were both over 4,500 square feet. So they weren't really suffering for funds in order to cover the building permit things. There's 2 sections in this that leave me a little pause. The first is the one about during the residency period, the purchaser shall not, without prior written approval by the borough, la-di-da-di-da. And there's all kinds of things in there, some of which are okay to me and others are not. For instance, if there's a medical emergency or they have to leave the island or something like that, I think it's reasonable for them to want to convey it to someone else who would become the primary resident in that place. That's okay. Turning it into a short-term rental is not okay with me, so I'm not sure that we should include that. And then further on in there was another one. The temporary waivers and modifications. I just think we have to be cautious about this. And I'm not sure what we would do. If there's a waiver, what does that mean? Does that mean we're going to allow short-term rentals or what? You know, I'm not happy with that kind of use of this system. Thank you.
So can I ask Mr. Smiley then, lines, I think it's 3D, lines 109 through 114 that address the short-term rental prohibition?
Yeah, I would reduce that to convey it to another person, where it will become their primary residence. I don't think that we want to have it go to changing the primary residential use of the property or to have it become a short-term rental.
Right.
And then the other part is on lines 130 through 136. And that's kind of wormy to me as well.
So your concern is that there's actually, that there is a pathway, that there's still a pathway to convert it to, okay. Mr. Whiteside and then Mr. Woods.
Yeah,
Oh, wait,
so-
I'm so sorry. Can I take Mr. Woods first? He
Absolutely.
hasn't spoken yet.
I'll gladly yield this. No, makes life easier. I don't know that I have a concern with that language so much. I think the intent is pretty straightforward. Is there a theoretical pathway? Yeah, there's almost always a theoretical pathway to get to a certain place. In this case, with a 5-year period and the spectrum of the human experience, it's kind of hard to lock down what may or may not happen, and to force somebody, or to conceivably force somebody to give up a property that they bought due to a legitimate hardship does not sit well with me.
Thank you. Mr. Whiteside.
Yeah, I'm struggling with this one as well. Is there a way that we can, if a temporary waiver or modification is granted, or demonstrating hardship is granted, they still have to fall on the subsequent owner of the property still has to, I guess, a continuation of that primary residence period. So I'm thinking about, medical necessity, people can't foresee that. But military service, BNC, military service and employment relocation within Alaska or beyond. I love our Coast Guard, but they're here for a brief period. Sometimes they buy homes and they move. So if they buy a home, move, and make a capital gain on that, that's great. But the buyer that they sell it to, if they're not held to the same restrictions for primary residence, that's, I think, the collective concern as I'm hearing it. And that kind of falls under B and C as a workaround for someone to purchase a home. If they get transferred to another duty station, they can sell it, and then that person who bought the home could then potentially use it as a short-term rental. I think that's my concern with those as well, but I'm not sure how we can get beyond that.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean,
Ms.
you
French.
could, if the main concern is that you want to have an ability for someone who has a medical hardship, you could revise 6 to say a demonstrated medical hardship, and then just add in a period and just say any waiver must be submitted in writing consistent with the public. So you just take out B and C if that's what the assembly would like us to do. We could do that.
Let's keep that one open. Mr. Woods and then Mr. Gardner.
Now, somebody please correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm reasonably certain that there are some federal restrictions about discriminatory practices for military members being sent overseas. That would be a massive issue that would need to overcome there, and I don't think we want to play anywhere near that game.
Yeah, we're going to be looking at a legal review.
And that's an expense and a headache we don't need. Employment's another thing, where as much as we may think that our employment is secure, crazy things happen. With that being said, I think we can address the short-term rental issue by specific language that it's just not a permitted use of the property. That pretty well solves that issue. Additionally, you can also you could theoretically include language that says the property may not be conveyed from the original owner inside of a period of 5 years. That is a legitimate workaround if our concern is that the original property owner is not holding on to that property as a primary residence or otherwise. It would be unfortunate for somebody moving to have to own a property and pay property tax on it. And additionally, we have the issue of how do we define a short-term rental? Is that somebody who, and again, we may already have it as a defined term. I'm not super familiar with it if it is. However, is a 6-month lease for somebody going to end up falling under that? Or is a 1-year lease going to fall under that? It's all things to consider, and I think I can run my guns.
Yeah, and we can provide the provisions. I mean, some of the newer assembly members may not know, but we did some changes to the code this fiscal year regarding short-term rentals and the definition. So we do define what a short-term rental is and those type of uses. And so we could relate to that definition and just quote it in the code and place that in here as well when we talk about what a short-term rental is. We can add that language.
Mr. Gardner and then Mr. Whiteside.
You guys keep answering my questions, but I basically wanted to agree with Mr. Whiteside about lines 133 and 134, items B and C. C especially, and Mr. Woods brings up great points. I mean, nobody's employment is 100% secure, but, you know, if your employment is forced, maybe, but just because you got a better job somewhere else, you know, then I don't know. I don't like that idea of having that one in there. And then as far as the military service goes, I think the intent here is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, you seem to know more than me. I think the intent here is that, hey, we're Coast Guard, we just moved to the island, we want to buy this property, we know we're getting transferred in 4 to 8 years, there is no possible way that we could fulfill the terms of this residency covenant. Is that discrimination, or is that just part of the residency covenant? And obviously, it's a bigger question for the lawyers, but yeah.
Mr. Whiteside.
Okay, I'm curious, so if they're rezoned to R2 and someone builds a duplex, the owner would essentially be in one of the 2 units. How would we handle the second unit in a duplex as far as residency requirement? Because they wouldn't, you know, bounce back and forth between the 2. Do we allow some flexibility in that case for, you know, a lot of folks, this is where I can lean into the short-term rental thing in the situation of a duplex, where someone buys their primary residence, they use it, the other half of the duplex to supplement their income to pay for their mortgage. But that's just something that popped out to me if we're going to go with R2.
We certainly can revise this language to adjust in case someone is going to build 2 units on the property, and they would have to live in one of the 2 units as their primary residence. The question I would have for the assembly is, do you want to allow the second unit to be short-term rental, or are we looking for it to still have a short-term rental restriction for both units? That's what I was hearing, so I just wanted to confirm it.
Okay. I had Mr. Gardner first and then Mr. Smiley.
I think Mr. Woods had his hand up.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I apologize, Mr. Woods.
I did, but I believe I have not talked as much as Mr. Smiley has, so. I think doesn't matter.
Go ahead.
I'm trying to be a gentleman. Again, back in regards to 134 and 135, additional considerations are military spouses, and the nature of how certain military careers go. Coast Guard is one thing where you may end up showing up here for a 3 to 5 year term, and I then know people who have been here in the same facility for 16 years. It's kind of hard to say what you're actually going to be doing. I'm a military brat. I grew up in a Coast Guard household. We were told we were going to be in California at one point for 3 to 5 years. We were there for 18 months. That was kind of just the nature of that beast. As well, I do believe military spouses are afforded some protections under federal statutes with regards to discriminatory practices. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm reasonably certain that's a thing. Employment's a cool thing, but we've seen look what's going on federally. Federal jobs for many, many years were thought to be incredibly secure. That's not necessarily a thing right now. How long has it been since the Coast Guard's been paid? You had, 80s, 90s, you had massive state layoffs. We don't know what the future is going to hold for people. And I agree, if somebody's taking a better job, it should be subject to review. This is more a pathway for somebody. The way I read this is a pathway for somebody to maintain ownership of a property through a specified process. Maybe could use some refinement for how that process should look and should be administered. But it does seem like a reasonable path forward to me. And I actually quite like Mr. French's language here.
Mr. Gardner.
You keep having great points, Mr. Woods. Let's see. I guess there would have to be some clarification as to what a temporary waiver would look like, and then, specifically as it related to military service or employment relocation. I guess we need to define exactly what would be required to get a temporary waiver granted and look into the legalities specifically as it is in regards to military service. And then I wanted to make the statement from Mr. Whiteside there. When I build or own something, I don't like people telling me what I can and cannot do with it. And I like the idea of having this go for primary residencies. The whole idea that we had was to get families into there that want to stick around. But if somebody is able to build a duplex, I don't have a problem with them, doing a short-term rental on the other side, and maybe we can refine what that looks like if people in the neighborhood don't want Airbnbs. But I have no problem with Airbnbs, but it'd be implicit that they would have to maintain the other half of that residence as their primary. But again, I don't like people telling me what to do when I build something, so that's my stance there.
Mr. Smiley.
In terms of R2, I think that I agree with Mr. Gardner. You don't want to tell people what to do with their other half. If one half is a primary residence, that satisfies me. The concern I have is, what are the neighbors going to think? And I think you might want to make it conditional if they want to rent it out. Make it conditional so that you inform the people within 500 feet, is it? Or 1,000 feet, whatever.
It depends on what the application is.
Yeah, and inform the neighbors that this is being requested and what are their thoughts on it, and then go from there.
Okay, so we're in some weeds. Oh, yes. Manager Williams.
Having moved here in a Coast Guard family twice, on 4-year tours, I can tell you, you're not going to get a very large onrush of people who are looking to buy land and build on a 4-year tour. Yes, there are a lot of folks who stay here. The last time I moved here for 4 years has turned into 10, right? So, but the idea of a new family coming in and being like, ooh, land for sale, like no one that looks at the price of lumber or finding a contractor or puts any thought in at all into actually building a home here will rush into any kind of clause like that. They probably won't be here long enough. And as Mr. Woods mentioned, a lot of times those 4-year tours turn into 2-year tours or 3-year tours or 10-year tours. Like, it's very unpredictable. So I don't think that we need to spend a lot of time doing a deep dive on the military portion, but federally, military people are protected from all kinds of contracts and covenants and contracts because you are not in control of where you're going. The government is. And so I think if we tried to put stuff on there, you will find that a federal government lawyer would step in very quickly and say no. And that does apply to spouses as well because they're attached to those orders too. But again, I do not see that as a practical problem.
I think the only real revision request I'm seeing is about lines 134 and 135 right now, and then also descended on to legal review, and then take a look at it after a legal opinion.
Is this is the one that's on the regular meeting agenda? It will not be done by then.
Right.
So we'll have to adjust that agenda.
That's why I'm asking, like, do you want to keep it on next week's agenda, or let's just, put a pause on it, work on some of the revisions, get that legal review, bring it back at the following work session. I think I saw Gardner, then Woods, then Whiteside.
I think Madam Manager is 100% correct, and there, in my opinion, is no reason to spend money on legal review on this. She's right. It's going to be almost impossible for something to happen here.
Some clarification.
Clarification, I think it has to go through legal review, but it will, I mean, Chris could have the updates done tomorrow. I do not think that our current legal team would have it back in time for us to be able to talk about it next Thursday. They have to, the process is long. But I do think it's wise, at least I think this is going to be something we're going to be doing frequently.
Yes.
So once we do it once and we
Yes.
get a template,
Yeah.
I would feel a lot more safe in the future saying that it doesn't have to go through a legal review each time. But it's been a minute, as we all know, since we've sold land. And so I'd rather get our proverbial I's dotted and T's crossed as we move into the first time, and then use that as a template for future land sales, just modifying whatever we want to do differently from there on out.
Especially with the covenants and the waivers that we're expecting.
Thank you.
Mr. Woods?
I would tend to agree with Mr. Mayor's appraisal of what the Assembly's intent is at the moment. Big caveat, though, I think we do need some refinement of the land use and the zoning requirements, specifically regarding to short-term rental stuff. If we're going to keep it R2, I think there should probably be some more direction there before we just go forward. I like what Madam Manager said. If we're going to have a template, let's do it right. Let's do it once, and potentially save ourselves time, energy, effort, and headaches, and legal costs.
Mr. French? And then
And that's, what I've heard is, yeah, we do need to revise this in case someone does build a second unit. So we need to make sure we add that in there. Direction from the Assembly on that, I've heard one way or the other in terms of short-term rental usage of that. I'd like some clarification on that.
I think the short-term rental was, I think we cross-referenced the definitions in there, the duplex thing.
So we currently define short-term rentals as anything that's shorter than 30 days. So if once you cross over 30 days, it's considered long-term. So or do you want to allow shorter than 30 days or keep everything in a long-term basis?
Let's see, we have Mr. Whiteside. I see Mr. Gardner. Did I see your hand? Oh, Mr. Smiley. Yeah.
All right. So I'm not too hung up on the. Let me go back down. Lines 133 and 134. My goal is to just think about, and I guess for context, I too am a military person, a veteran. I went to 11 schools, moved 13 times before I graduated high school.
Oh, yeah.
I get it. But I just want to make sure there aren't easy workarounds for folks to purchase these properties, that are intended for primary residence for our workforce here in the community, for someone to find a workaround to purchase one, build a home, make a capital gain on it. When they sell it, the next person buys it, immediately turns it into a short-term rental. That's my goal, is I want to just make sure we're mindful of any workarounds to achieve that. As far as the duplex scenario, my preference will always be long-term, but I could defer to the majority on that one, whether the other half was short-term or long-term.
Mr. Smiley?
I'm happy for a duplex situation, as long as one of them is a primary residence for the owner of the property, for the other one to either be long-term or short-term rental.
Mr. Gardner?
For the whole business of short-term rentals, can't we just cross-reference the terms from the code we passed not that long ago? I think that wording just fits in there perfectly and solves all that issue. I don't think anybody has that big of a problem with the long-term thing.
Ms. Roberts?
Yeah, I agree. As long as one half of the duplex is primary residence, I would be okay with the other half being short-term rental.
I want you to know that you were evenly split and did not,
I know, that's why I'm trying to.
I don't see a consensus on that. Sorry.
I'll break it.
Well, I have Mr. Woods and then,
I have no issue with one half being used as a short-term rental as long as at least one unit's being used as a primary residence.
okay. Ms. Whiteside, thumbs up too? Okay. Great, thank you. Ms. Roberts?
Sorry, I had one maybe dumb question. Line 134, employment relocation within Alaska or beyond is out of the state, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
The moon base might be looking for people soon.
It gave me Buzz Lightyear vibes, but, okay.
Okay, it sounds like we've exhausted that one. Does you got the?
It does. I can
Good
make, I
direction.
can make those changes and we'll get it to the attorneys to
Okay.
review. Thank you.
Let's take a 5-minute break.
Make sure all your microphones are on. Thank you.
What brought the Jared sarcasm out today is what I'm wondering.
Do what?
What brought the sarcasm out today? 'Cause I wasn't ready.
I'm sarcastic all day and I try to stifle it and sometimes the cracks.
Radio personality.
Oh, yes.
Every day you fight for your life and have.
You don't need to stay for the budget amendment.
You hate
Can I say your
Meeting.
I was just
stay?
Okay.
But I didn't know if you wanted me to come up and read it. I read it last week.
No, they're not even gonna want me to read this. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna say, this is their time to see it. Would you like me to read through? And Scott Smiley's gonna say no.
It's a work session.
And but if they do, like, I think it's important to a regular meeting, but not when it's not.
Just checking before I.
Hey, Chris, you don't have to stay for the Metroken rezone. I don't think there's gonna be a lot of questions.
Oh, no, yeah.
Yeah, I'm totally fine. Yeah.
Questions on the change to the future land use map? There's plenty of, the city didn't own it when they did that map. They had a residence on it, the residence is gone, city owns it. There's plenty of.
This isn't kind of like cleanup. This isn't like, oh, can we change a house into a lift station? It's already done.
Yeah, and they wanted it away from the lake. That was the main reason why they moved it, so, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, I figured that out. Less than 10 minutes. They're new. Sorry. I went on without people.
Everything's really fine.
Do you have anything you thought of that I need to do for you tomorrow?
No, look, this is my agenda for the all hands. Can you think of anything else? I was gonna talk about, I was gonna ask department directors to introduce any new employees, cause that way I can't get blamed for not knowing names. Except then I thought, oh God, I'm the ENF director, so I have Ryan, Robert, and then I know there's 2 temporary laborers. If they're there, I'm not gonna know their names, so I'll figure out that. Then I'm gonna talk about, we started union negotiations. Next dates are coming up in 2 weeks, so if you want stuff they want to talk to the shop stewards about, go ahead. And then there's gonna be a message from the shop stewards, and Cody Pascal is gonna stand up and say, if you're coming to a shop steward to talk to them about an issue, you are required to inform your supervisor. You will just sign it? No, right. Employee of the quarter.
Oh,
is Brandon,
okay, yes, I am.
the head of maintenance.
You sure you want to handle it
So
now?
I'm gonna introduce that.
I mean, we're already.
I'm gonna tell them that we're in the budget process, and last night the assembly just
What?
asked about what additional. Because
I would really strongly
there's
recommend, like,
sentiment around, it's a really tight budget, and people lose their jobs, so I don't wanna, like, I can't make any promises, but right now they're looking towards, like, making sure that we're actually hiring.
they did. Yes.
Congratulations to Nikki and Matt on the addition of Jessica. No comments about where they are, how they're doing, just like, hey, no details, just yay for them. We did a diaper drive. If you have anything, please drop it off.
Because I'm gonna be,
We'll be moving it.
we'll be dropping it off at the residence sometime next week.
Thanks to SEMA for the signs,
Let me
because
think
she
about-
did that, and then questions for me, so easy peasy, and then I usually pick
Yes,
out,
very interesting.
if you work directly for me, sayonara.
It didn't go very
Right.
far.
Happily.
Well, I know,
Don't get in my way very much.
but May Day is always
My
like,
husband and I were tracking where it was going,
Megan's always mad.
you know, I think I was like,
We'll let you
Which,
if you need to before they come down.
I
Oh, yes.
don't
Oh,
think
yes.
I just wanna get done.
it's called sugar and sand.
Thank you. It's my attempt at something that is not winter.
I mean, I haven't heard that,
Nice to see you.
but.
You know, when you walked in last night, I was like, oh my God, it looks so good. Hair was down.
So, let's, you know what, okay, so we're just like, hey, explore what's like.
The potluck.
Let's talk about that. Okay,
Was that
all right.
Tuesday night?
Okay.
Tuesday night.
Yeah, I thought it was.
Sorry, my days have been.
We're all.
Yeah, so was mine. I kept thinking yesterday, not yesterday. Tuesday
I mean,
was
well, yes,
Monday,
I mean,
yesterday
that's-
was Thursday. No. Yeah,
Well, I
yesterday
wasn't
was
here on
Thursday.
Monday, and then Tuesday got crazy, and then union negotiations.
kind of
negotiations.
I do need to talk to you about my staff stuff.
revenue tax initiative on the ballot.
I like your purple mascara too.
Thank you. Not
Oh,
very
no,
many people
yeah,
noticed that.
I think especially
Only one hat. Bronwyn did, like a couple weeks ago, but most people don't.
directed towards that.
That my mascara is purple.
All right.
Not very many people noticed.
And there. See, I think, when you tell people about it, then, yeah, I haven't heard anybody say no, you know. My God, it took me 2.5 minutes just to get this peanut thing open.
Nick, you can go fish.
Oh, and I didn't pack it. I was gonna say pack it.
Okay, we're back with the work session. We're at our final agenda item for the work session, discussing the possibility of implementing marijuana sales excise tax. This was originated by Caroline, so I'll toss it over to you.
Thank you. I'm bringing up the idea of the marijuana excise tax because I think it's important that we consider diversifying our revenue streams, especially with financial pressures that we're seeing ahead of time. When we were going over this portion of the budget, I was honestly surprised that the borough didn't already have an excise tax in place for this. I'm a pretty data-driven person. I like to do research and be backed up by facts, so I think we need some realistic data going into this decision. Looking at similar municipalities, what they're doing, understanding what revenue could come from this. We also need to know what's currently being sold locally, so we have a baseline and include conversations with the local businesses to hear their perspective. I've already reached out to the clerks to help gather some of the data so we can get a better, clearer picture of what this could realistically look like. And once we have that, I think it'll help guide a much more informed decision and discussion. I think if the Assembly decides to pursue this, an idea I have is to use the revenue to support the health and safety of our community. For example, programs that address impacts of substance abuse or use. And finally, I think we should include a 3-year review if this does get implemented, having a 3-year review in place to make sure we're looking at what the baseline is and if it's being used wisely. I'm interested to hear what everyone is thinking about this and what direction we want to go in.
Mr. Woods is a co-signer on this. Is it okay if we hear from Mr. Woods? Okay, Mr. Woods.
Couple things. One, I don't think anybody expects a tremendous amount of revenue to come from this. It's not, certainly to speak to Mr. Shackler's comment earlier, not an idea for solving the borough's budget woes. However, we do still need a means of funding certain programs if we would like to have the benefit of nonprofits potentially that address substance abuse, mental health, housing. This is a way to mitigate those impacts on the general fund, is my thought process. Secondly, sin taxes, I don't have a conceptual issue with them in general, and I struggle to think that even if we're looking at a theoretical number, which is nowhere in here, a 10% increase in a marijuana price is not going to keep somebody from recreationally using marijuana. I would be shocked. I've literally had at least half a dozen conversations today about how people didn't want to stop smoking marijuana, despite the looming possibility of jail. Not joking, it happened. I understand the regulatory requirements and restrictions that a business like that undergoes. It's a tremendous amount of scrutiny, and there's a great deal of problems there, but I would love to hear what people have to think about it. Not a fan of just imposing a tax for no reason. I would much rather see, if we're going to tax something, we should have a purpose for it. Thank you.
Mr. Gardner. Mr. Smart.
Couple of things. When Mrs. Roberts brought this up, I was all for it. And after Mr. Schockler called, he reminded me of some things, and while I'm not against it, my standing is definitely changing. I had forgotten the Alaska statutes that required, I believe it's actually him, to be the person that goes and flies to each one of these places to go and get this stuff. And when this whole process of opening up marijuana retail in Kodiak had started, I had wanted to get involved, and the costs for me to get into it at the time were prohibitive. I'm not going to go into detail, but there's already a lot of difficulties for these guys to operate in this already, and so I'm wondering, I have a little bit of a problem with the way this is worded in terms of taxing the business at a rate based on ounces and the transfer of the said product. I have less of a problem of instating some kind of sales tax on that situation and reminding the retail operators that, you know, that while it's a pain in the butt to deal with sales tax forms and things, it's not necessarily raising your costs of doing business. It's just taking some time away from you. And then the other thing I had a problem with was the idea of relegating any tax funds from this towards specifically a substance abuse situation. I don't really think that people from marijuana usage are labeled as substance abusers, and I feel like it just puts a little bit of a shady light on it, and I don't think that that's fair, you know? Not that it shouldn't be relegated to something great for the community, so we make sure it doesn't get sucked up into the general fund and turned into new chairs or something somewhere, but yeah, those are my thoughts. I want to hear what the rest of you have to say.
Thank you. Mr. Smiley.
I worry about taxing things or putting too many penalties on the sale of legal marijuana so that it becomes less attractive than off-the-street marijuana, which doesn't have any of those taxes. And my understanding is that the first time we went through this in the state, we did drive a lot of people into the arms of street vendors that weren't paying taxes. I don't know whether $10 an ounce is a reasonable amount. The last time I priced marijuana was 60 years ago, and I haven't done it in quite a while. It was about $10 an ounce at that point. So, that was back in Berkeley, just so you know. And so I think we need to do this with reference to what the street price is. Thank you.
Mr. Whiteside.
Thank you. I struggle with this one for a few reasons, and I agree. We need to, and I've tried different ways as well to diversify our revenue stream and not just put the burden of taxation and revenue generation from property taxes. But I also struggle with the fact that they're also paying a sales tax to the city. I believe 2 of the 3 are paying sales tax currently to the city, and then the potential impact on small business. I don't know how many employees these 3 entities have.
Sorry, Mr. Whiteside, I was counting. My daughter works at one of them, so I'm like, one for sure.
So I don't know how many employees in the community these folks have on payroll. Would this, I don't know, I'm just rambling a bit because I'm struggling. I would prefer, I appreciate the data-driven aspect of this. I'd like to see some figures come before us first before developing opinion, but currently I'm leaning towards, I want to make sure we're not putting small business, shuttering doors for small businesses, especially those that employ locals here. But until we see some some figures in front of us. I'm going to remain neutral.
Correct me if I'm wrong, I'm just going to jump in for a little bit. Ms. Roberts and Mr. Woods aren't asking for opinions yet. They're just kind of throwing it out there. There are a lot of, I heard a lot of, I don't know what the impacts are. I don't know, this, and this. There are some, I think, perhaps myth kind of assumptions that we might have, but we need data. We need that kind of information to help us form an opinion. And I believe that's the direction that Ms. Roberts and Mr. Woods are kind of going for. I don't think that they're asking us to revisit 3.70.030 and the Alaska statute that we already have in our code, but I am open to. I mean, we don't know what we don't know anyway, and if there's something there, then there's something there, and if it's going to be if it's going to have such a great negative impact, then there's our opinion, but we just don't know. And there are several communities in Alaska that are already doing these things. So, let's see what they're doing and if it's even worth it to begin with. I had Mr. Woods, then Mr. Gardner, and then Ms. Roberts.
Mr. Smiley referenced a couple legitimate concerns, and I think more or less myths as far as what has happened as time has gone on. One, if we may have seen a few people continue to use illicitly sourced marijuana, we saw dramatically more people go from illicitly selling marijuana to legitimately selling marijuana. I'm aware of, never mind. But it in my experiences, that happened more significantly than the other way around. And largely, too, for the reason of, even though it was illegal federally, the cultivation process got a lot better. Frankly, they just started growing better and better weed. It's kind of the same way where after certain supply chains got established with other illicit drugs, specifically methamphetamine, we saw a whole lot less domestically produced methamphetamine and a lot more getting shipped in just due to the quality of that product. And again, I'm not saying that, at least that's what I've been led to understand. I've worked in law enforcement here in Kodiak now for, since 2017, going on 9 years. It'll be 9 years next month. And I can count probably on one hand how much illicitly sourced marijuana I've seized, but I would struggle to fill in this room. Probably about half of that would be filled with just marijuana I seized during DUI investigations that had come from our local pot shops. Again, not a reflection on them. If somebody's going to use an impairing substance, they're going to use that. But it is substantially more common to see legally purchased marijuana in a law enforcement context than illicitly sourced marijuana.
Mr. Gardner.
First, thanks for the redirection on getting away from state code. I understand what you're saying now. Secondly, I believe, isn't the shop that's on Near Island, isn't that in Borough?
Mm-hmm.
No, that belongs to the city.
That was city. Well,
it is Borough.
Well,
it's city. Okay. Yeah, so it would be terrible to double tax them. I like what Mr. Whiteside said. Some of these places employ quite a few people. I don't know if a sales tax works at the one in Bell's Flats or not. Yeah. I wanted to emphasize what Mr. Whiteside said. These are small businesses that they employ a lot of people, and they go through a lot to make their businesses work, and what their customers choose to do with it after the fact is not their fault. Like I said before, I was all over this when Mrs. Woods started this conversation, and sorry, Mrs. Roberts, I apologize. I can't help but keep thinking to myself that we should bring these small businesses into the conversation as we move forward with this. So
yeah,
I think that's it.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think that's part of their intent. Who was today? Ms. Roberts, yes.
Yeah, I think having the current code that is all focused on the cultivation kind of muddles it a little bit. We're not looking at putting a percentage or number on it now. Like 20% is very scary. I don't think we're thinking that high. We really want to have that data before we can even think about how much we would collect from that, or if it's even worth collecting on that. And I understand the small business aspect. I think it is really important to include them in on the conversation and get their opinion and thoughts on that. And as far as what to do with the revenue, I don't have a specific idea of where it should go. I just think it needs to go to something, not just the general fund like you were saying, so it's not absorbed by chairs.
Absorbed by chairs. Yeah. Mr. Woods.
Kind of piggyback on the small business thing. Mr. Gardner, it runs a small business, and frankly, a lovely one, and I very much enjoy being a patron, so don't hate me. Second off, my wife owns a small business as well. I know when my costs of doing business go up, it generally transfers to the customer, and it doesn't always just go up. For instance, certain factors may make sourcing things domestically a whole lot cheaper than importing things, which is what benefited us this year. If we're talking a small percentage increase, I find it highly unlikely that a small business is not just going to increase their prices to match that new expense. That's what makes the most sense to me. That's likely what would end up happening in our small business if our costs went up by a degree due to a small percentage tax. As far as the specter of losing jobs, I don't necessarily know that barring some outside factor, it would necessarily make that likely. Additionally, I understand it's a difficult industry to be in with having to physically go move things from point A to point B. However, as pioneers in those industries, that's kind of what they signed on for until the statute can catch up to it. It wasn't an unknown. There are certain businesses that require certain procedures for procurement. Theirs is one that's just particularly convoluted. It's kind of the nature of doing business in that realm. If we were working with hazardous materials, it would still be the same type. You'd have similar issues. Anything federally illegalized, there's hoops to go through. I don't necessarily know that that should factor into as a decision-making criteria in this discussion. I'm not saying it shouldn't, but I would encourage the body to give that thought in a holistic manner, not just, oh, this is difficult, or this is scary, or this is more money. What are the actual impacts of those things?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for all the concerns that are brought up. I'm sure that Ms. Roberts and Mr. Woods are thinking about them. It's my understanding that this is not a tax for retailers. This is a tax that customers would be paying. So it's and then this is not a doubling of the city's sales tax. This is 1%, 2%. Maybe, but we're not even there to talk about rates. One other thing too that I'd like to point out, nonprofit funding came up, and previously, and this is according to had a good conversation with Linda Freed this week, and previously the nonprofit funding came from the state. It was part of the big, community support, community development money that they would pass on to boroughs, and the Kodiak Island Borough decided to use that to distribute to nonprofits. And of course, as this state, went away, the borough, kept up with those, has kept up with that through general fund. Over the past couple of years, I and Mr. Whiteside, we've been trying to look at some other ways to supplement that through Kodiak, or through the Fisheries Disaster Fund, and then the Opiate Settlement Fund. We came to an agreement at the Assembly that we're going to use that instead of from the general fund. This, to me, at least on its surface, the way it's been presented, seems like this may be another pot that could still support some of those efforts related to health and safety, and however small that money is. So it does yes, it wouldn't balance or help balance our budget at all, but might just relieve some pressure in certain places. Let's. So I think Ms. Robertson, Mr. Woods have already asked for information and data. Is there anything else that you want to? It sounds like we have some neutrality, some concerns, but are we still open to at least gathering data and information? Okay. All right. Okay. Anything else? Okay. All right. Thank you. Anything, Madam Manager? Okay. Well, let's move on to packet review. Next Thursday is going to be really cool. A lot of awards and certificates. Where is it? There we go. Up first is the Bayside Fire Department swearing-in ceremony. Amy.
Thank you. Chief Ellis is going to be here next Thursday night to present the awards of promotion to a bunch of folks. And then while we continue the meeting, they're going to go downstairs and eat cake and ice cream. Rude. But
We'll take some breaks.
Yeah, but I was like, so we might want a break right after that. No, I'm excited that he's sharing this with the assembly. They have put a lot of work into those promotions, and the people being promoted are very proud, and I'm excited to share that with them.
Yes, that'll be great. And then also some certificates to the Citizen Academy graduates.
We don't have a lot of people that are able to be here next week, but those who can are going to. And so we'll just, for the ones that are here, we'll hand it out to them and ask them if they have any comments. It should be really fast.
And then the next one is the proclamation for Sexual Assault Awareness Month. That's usually they usually do some things in March, but it's a little bit later this year. But that's something we've done annually for several years now. Then we'll have two public hearings. Public hearing on the there we go. Moving funds between projects in the budget and so on. This will be the fourth time. I think we're hearing about
that's
it.
our quarterly budget amendment. I'm assuming that you don't want me to read through it, but I will if you want to hear it again tonight. But I mean, we always will read it at the public hearing, so you can hear about all the numbers then.
Any questions about that? Okay, the next one then will also be, as I mentioned, the fisheries disaster relief distribution from the Prince William Sound pink and coho salmon. Anything additional about that you want to discuss? Okay. All right, a couple contracts. Amy, you had mentioned the pumps earlier. This is contract number FY 2025-49, change order number 2, KFRC Seawater Pump, replacement and installation with Industrial Pumps of Alaska.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for remembering my foreshadowing. I was working really hard on that earlier tonight. We got a screaming deal, like a really good deal on these pumps. I think the next competitive price was almost $90,000 per pump, and so we did a really good job getting these here. They are here. When they got here, the shafts were too short. There was discussion that was different on there was data that was traded that was different on our tide levels. And how much water is in those vaults at certain times. And so we are going to have to increase the shaft lengths. So there is a change order being requested. It's change order number 2 to the project for $41,704 to fix the shaft length. And their updated total contract cost is at $270,112.50. This is above my spending, not above my spending authority, but above how much I can change a contract percentage-wise. This was researched and figured out, and our projects team has gone back and forth with the manufacturer to figure out the best way to solve the problems that we're having, and it's going to be a change in the shaft length. And the manufacturer is prepared to do it, and they're ready to go. So there's really, like, if we want these pumps to work, we have to change shaft length. So there's not a lot of question around it.
Thank you, Mr. Gardner.
Just want a little clarification here. It says that review of the original drawings indicated the total pump length was 36.5 feet, but that was inaccurately documented after the fact. Does that mean that the pumps that we got are 26.5 feet and we were supposed to ask for 36, or were our replacement drawings 36 feet and the ones that we need are 46 feet?
Mr. Garner, I don't know which direction that goes, but I can get that answer back to you. I know they're 10 feet off, but I don't know if it's they have to be 36 or they have to be 46.
I just want to clarify
Sure.
for
Yep.
the public
Absolutely.
who made the mistake and how the mistake was made, because the way I'm reading it, I can't tell if our documentation was wrong or if somebody wrote it down incorrectly when they were ordering it and at 40,000.
It is the borough's fault.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, all right, thanks.
Anyone else? All right. The next contract is FY 2026-54 Memorandum of Agreement between Kodiak Island Borough and the Kodiak Island Borough School District regarding the East Elementary Roof Replacement Project. Madam Manager.
Thank you. Superintendent Mika is leaving the Kodiak Island Borough School District. She's trying to make sure that all of the things that are left behind are cleaned up. In 2022, the district set aside funds to reimburse the borough for the main elementary school roof replacement project. There were funds that were remained from that project. We were looking at moving those funds to the North Star Roof and Skylight Replacement Project. And to work on other school building roofs as needed. The borough and the school district are now looking to come together in a memorandum of agreement to set the remaining funds into the east roof project, which is scheduled to get done in the summer of 2027. So you have all of the numbers listed there that were originally there. Friend contractors were awarded $620,000 for the main elementary roof. Our design and construction services were $64,000, and we had charged $2,089.39 in borough admin time, and for the total main project being $686,737.39. And then we had money left over from that project that was used for two things. The school district used $125,000 of those with a company called Tremco, who walked all the roofs and did patching work. And then our design services to design North Star only up to the point where it was still an elementary school were just over $66,000. So there are $621,844.01. Sorry, my brain didn't work there for a second. That we would like to redirect to be used for the East Elementary roof design and replacement as we take on that project. So that would supplement our R&R funds. It's extra money for us to get that roof replacement done instead of North Star. That's the Cliff Notes version.
Thank you. Any questions? Mr. Smiley.
Are we still going to do North Star?
Eventually, we will have to do something to the North Star roof because
What
it still
does
leaks.
eventually mean?
We can only do one roof a year.
Understood.
And so
28?
I'm thinking 28, unless we do multiple painting projects for rural schools, or there's a rural school project that needs to be done in 28. I think that would take priority. I think we want to make sure the envelopes on our actual school buildings are taken care of first, or being taken care of along the way. But yes, we do have North Star. North Star design is done, but it didn't feel right to do North Star in 27 when East clearly needs a roof replacement as well. So East is
Well, there's
bumping in there.
students in East, so that makes sense. But there is dripping water in North Star, and it fills buckets, so.
Not today.
It wasn't raining
Sorry.
today.
I know. Yes, North Star remains a problem, and yes, we will have to fix it. I think we'll be able to change the scope on that fix a little bit. We're not going to have to, if it was an elementary school, we would have proceeded with replacing that entire roof. Because it's not an elementary school, we will replace the parts that are leaking. And it's not just the parts that are leaking. We have to get out to
I
the
understand.
edges where those problems are. So it's still a big project, and there is money set in that project for that and remains there.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Gardner?
Do we have any idea what the maintenance impact is on letting that sit for a couple of years?
It has been that way for,
A long time?
yes. It's not good, but it hasn't gotten worse or changed. It is with the design of the skylight. That skylight has almost leaked since it was built. And so in our design change that has been through the ARB and been approved, we're keeping that superstructure, but changing all the places where it's leaking.
In the meantime, do we have the ability to sort of put a Band-Aid on it? I don't know how bad that leak is. I know when I have issues like that, in a building that we don't want to replace the whole roof, I like to go to town with a whole bottle or two of Lexel and, sort of caulk it off so
It
we
has
can.
been patched and patched and patched some more.
Okay.
Yes. It is mostly patch at this point.
All right,
Yes.
thanks.
I think that I don't see any significant, I don't think anyone, the ARB, we've talked about that, sees any significant damage happening by bumping it a year.
Mr. Woods?
I like redirecting the funds to East. I will just put a cautionary note in there that with public funds and with what we've got going, there's really no such thing as extra money. And I would like to not really treat something like that.
It is quote-unquote extra money because it is not currently in our Buildings and Grounds Fund and could be. You're right, no one has extra money, but it is money that we were not counting on, so it feels extra.
Anyone else? Okay. Next on the next week's agenda is our resolution for setting the terms, but I think we're probably going to take that off as we wait for revisions and some legal review on that. One ordinance that we'll be introducing, ordinance number FY 2026-24, rezoning USS 3099 Lot 21 Sublot 6 from R1 Single Family Residential District to PL Public Use Lands District. And, oh yeah, we let Chris go.
I did let Chris go. This is a request from the city of Kodiak to rezone the 2593 Metroken Way. There was a house there. That house has been removed. This is the location of a new lift station. They had a $250,000 emergency repair that happened there, and when it was time to look at where that lift station would go, they wanted to move it away from the lake. They picked that lot. This is kind of the opposite request of what we normally get. We try to move public lands into residential. This is moving residential back into public lands. The city owns this lot now, and in a way, this is cleanup because it's already been done. But we're trying to make the zoning match what the use is now.
Any questions? All right, thank you. And other items, declaring a seat vacant on the Mission Lake Tidegate Service Area Board. Mr. Alan Wolf, Nova.
Mr. Alan Wolf has relocated out of Kodiak, and we need to vacate his seat so that we can advertise and then fill it with a new board member.
Yes.
Thank you.
And we already have, I've already talked to a couple of people who are already interested in taking over that seat, so should be pretty smooth. All right, that's PICA review. We're moving on back into the work session agenda with clerk's comments.
It's pretty short. I was out on vacation last week and had a nice Easter with my family, my cute nieces and my cute nephew, and I'm glad to be back. Lena and Irene did a fantastic job filling for me while I was gone, so I really thank them for the job that they do. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Next, Assembly members' comments. We'll start down on the end with Mr. Woods and work our way this way.
Not a whole lot. Just thanks, guys, for a great, fruitful conversation. And yeah, it felt collaborative, and I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Ms. Roberts.
No comments.
Mr. Whiteside.
Happy spring.
Yes, springtime. Mr. Smiley.
No comment.
Mr. Gardner.
I always appreciate these meetings, getting clarifications and stuff, even though they do tend to run long, but appreciate all of you. Thanks, everyone.
And mayor's comments. So I have a few things. I got to meet Manager Williams' compatriots on the Prince William Sound Regional Advisory Council. They're in town, and met some people from Alyeska who are doing a lot of that training. It's some really cool things that they were able to do this week. So that was great to meet them. I was the guest speaker at Rotary, the noon Rotary, and yes, the 7 a.m. Wednesday morning, crack of dawn Rotary. Really good conversations there. And just kind of, talked about a whole bunch of random things. The specter of consolidation has come up again, and I swear to God, it is like literally on a 10-year cycle. Like the previous time, it was like right around 2016. Before that, 2006. Before that, 1996. And so it's 2026. So people are thinking consolidation again. It's really very interesting. And so I imagine there's going to probably be more conversations about that. It wasn't deemed viable for the previous iterations, or there wasn't enough political will to move forward. So we will, I guess, the public, I think, is going to kind of direct us on that, on what they want to see. Let's see. Lands Committee was back up and running on Monday. We talked about principles and screening criteria for land. We were introduced to a request from KEA for a couple of parcels to help clean up some of the land up there by Terra Lake. I didn't know that the borough, we own a parcel of land underwater. So, new borough building, right? Little submersible, right? But I'll have more when we go through committee reports next week, because Bo and Dave were there also. I really appreciate the flexibility from the staff and from the manager on piling 2 meetings next week. We'll have hopefully a short regular meeting, and then we can get into budget issues next week. So I really appreciate that. Maybe I'll say this again next week too, but I didn't realize how many requests for candidate and political endorsements would be coming my way and across my desk. Just a blanket thing, I do not make political endorsements of candidates. I believe in the nonpartisan position of everybody on this board, but particularly the mayor. Those you should not see anything come from me and from this desk on anything like that. And let's see, the school district's citizen budget committee thing is about to start up. Mr. Woods was appointed to sit on the school district budget working committee also. Ms. Roberts has also requested to be a part of that too. So I'll work with Nova on exactly how we can, how I can make an appointment of Ms. Roberts as like either an alternate or a second person, because I think I would like to maybe have more than one assembly member on that. Especially if they're going to be meeting over the summer, and with travel, it'd be good to make sure that we have at least one person represented there. So I just saw that in the paper a couple days ago. So. Oh, okay. No, I appreciate that. Yeah, I appreciate that too. Yeah. So I'll talk with Nova and hope we can get something on there soon before they start their meeting, and make sure that we have good knowledgeable coverage on there. Okay, I think that's it for me for now. All right, we're adjourned. Do you want to be there? Do you want to? Oh, okay.